Hey everybody, so this is another update given to you from my car as I drive down 12 East, 12 West currently. 12 West in Minnesota, of course. Anyway, yeah, I'm just doing this to update y'all on some stuff. So I said we were going to have an episode this week. Turns out we won't be able to do that because of scheduling conflicts that Matthew has going on. He tried to get out of them, and it is not possible. It's not a work thing. It's whatever. I'm not gonna pull his personal life into this any more than I ever have to, because we try not to. We try to keep it separated in a bit. Any rate, so yeah, let's discuss a little bit though about what's been going on with Candace in the wake of the Charlie Kirk killing. Now, as everyone may or may not be aware, Charlie Kirk was really influential in giving Candace her big step up into the world. She had made a name for herself as Red Pill Black on YouTube, and we've discussed that before. And when that got doxxed, I don't remember if it was her that doxed herself, or if she just came right out, or if someone else said, hey, this is who this person is. I don't honestly know. I used to think I did know, and then I came across some other things that proved to me that I might not. So I will have to look into that. Any rate, I don't like just believing one story. I want to find corroboration. Anyhow, that's all beside the point. So, Candace was known. She was a known figure. And then she, after she'd been on shows like Stefan Molyneux and, Dave Rubin and all these other nimwits, she then got recruited by Charlie Kirk with Turning Point USA. And that was really where the start of her whole hashtag Blexit, that's BLEXIT, campaign really took off with TPUSA money. I have not checked into that for a hot minute, but the last time that I checked into it was about 3 months ago, and I may or may not have mentioned this in the last episode, but that was still a thing that they were pushing, even though Candace will tell you that that she broke away from TPUSA's from helping them out with shit 3 years ago. She's said that several times, but they were still using her name and face and story to push Blexit. Now the funny thing is, as we've brought up on the show before, Candace will flat out lie and say that she got a college degree. Hell, at one point she claimed that she had 2 college degrees. One for journalism and one for English, none of which is true. As we've brought out and I've demonstrated time and again, that is simply not true. And by Candace's own admission, she dropped out of college in her 3rd year at the University of Rhode Island when she was about 20, 21, somewhere along those lines. She dropped out of school. And other people who went to school with her at URI that have contacted me privately, they mentioned that as well. They're like, she was in some of my classes, and she was not in my graduating class, and she wasn't in anybody's graduating class that I know of that was behind me. So, I don't know where this degree shit is coming from. I've gotten emails to that effect and DMs and shit. Anyway, so it's been backed up by multiple sources, including Candace herself, that she did not graduate school. But they also use that on the Blexit page, which, if I will go looking for it later. If I can't find it, I may put it up as like an Internet Archive thing. I'm sure it's been archived. Anyway, they were using the fact that Candace Owens was a college dropout as a positive spin to try to get students involved in the Blexit campaign in order to get black college students away from, the Democratic Party and liberal normatives and stuff like that. So, take that as you will. I don't know of any Blexit groups that were operating on historically black colleges or universities. The HBCUs. I don't know of any Blexit chapters that were in those, but if somebody out there does, hit me up over email. Do it from a secure email if you want to, or, via Blue Sky, or God forbid, Twitter. Now speaking of Twitter and speaking of Candace, as I've said before, I am on Twitter pretty much to monitor Candace and occasionally strike back at people and mention the show and shit. I'm on Twitter sparingly, maybe for about 10 to 15 minutes a day at a maximum. When I checked into Twitter last night, there was, because the algorithm has obviously geared itself to things that I actually pay attention to and engage with. And so there was a large number of Twitter posts from people saying that Candace currently is pushing the story that Charlie Kirk's assassination was due to an MK Ultra style plan, and her latest that involved an MK Ultra style plan. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. An MK Ultra style plan that involved a cult based around bees, as in the insect. I'll let y'all sit with that for a second. So, she has been out there pushing that she doesn't believe the FBI narrative about Charlie Kirk's killer. She, of course, she's pulling all of this conspiracy brain shit into it. I have not spent much time with her stuff. I've been, regarding Charlie Kirk, okay, as I've said before, I think he was a massive asshole. I watched his assassination footage until I got bored, and that was the day of. I allowed myself to really sit with it and watch it and explore how I thought about it. And, as I've said before, man, I'm an anti-fascist. And even though I'm not a member of any Antifa group, I am an anti-fascist. And I don't see the problem. I don't think he should have been killed. I think the best thing that could have possibly ever happened for Charlie Kirk would have been if he was struck with poverty. But he was on the career trajectory he was on. I don't know how likely that ever was to happen. I would rather see any of these people go out the way that Ayn Rand went out, which is to be so struck with poverty, they have to then rely on the very government services that they railed against and preached against and said you had to be evil to interact with. I would rather see that happen to all of these numbskulls than to see them be mercifully killed. I would rather see them suffer at the level that the rest of us suffer at than to have what happened to him happen. I think that was, I don't know. I think that was too quick for what he deserved while he was out there calling for all kinds of bad shit to happen to non-white people, non-white heteronormative people. So, yeah, I don't think he should have been shot. But at the same time, what's done is done. And the FBI is doing what the FBI does. Now, whether or not they actually have an end to this thing or not, I don't know. And frankly, I don't care in the scope of my work. However, the scope of my work has me interacting with Candace's bullshit. And Candace seems to believe, at least right now. This may be a stages of grief thing, but she seems to really be focused on the idea that Charlie Kirk was taken out. Her latest headline of her show indicates that she may believe that Charlie Kirk was taken out by way of internal forces within TPUSA because he was calling for a money thing. Like, she's breaking it down to being a money thing with TPUSA. So that's whatever. I will follow up on that when I have the time. But yeah, I will say that the Kirk killing affected me in a way that I didn't really think it would, because, again, I'm not broken up about the dude. I think he was a total fucking asshole. And, you know, he really did bring it on himself. But yeah, that all said, the Kirk killing affected me in the way that, you know, I started paying more attention than I already do to how, you know, the left is perceived by the fascists, which is the same as it's always been. They're just using his death to ramp up the rhetoric that they've been sitting on. You know, they're using his... I think they tried to really ride the momentum of this. Yeah, I think the most telling thing was when they compared the death of... when several of them compared the killing of Charlie Kirk to the Reichstag fire in Germany in the 30s. Now, the way that I always understood the Reichstag fire, and I feel like I need to go learn more about it, but the way that I was always told the Reichstag fire was that the Nazis set it as a false flag and then claimed persecution from it and got sympathy and, you know, used it to become what they became. Get public sympathy and all that. Well, anyone in the fascism sphere calling the death of Charlie Kirk an event similar to the Reichstag fire, I don't think they understand it either. So, yeah, it's hard to sit with any of this as someone that makes a podcast that is out there in the world that, you know, also has to live in it. I make a moderate income. You know, I do what I can, but I make a moderate income, and, you know, I have to interact with people. I have to interact with people in my personal life that were horrified by the killing, that may not have even seen the video. Certainly didn't watch it as many times as I did. But, yeah, you know, it's really something to mull over. Like, I don't think I'm in any kind of danger. Again, but, you know, it did affect me. That when I was sitting down to really go through the show script and, you know, do my research and stuff, I kept coming back to kind of doom scrolling, just the news feed, various sources. And I don't usually do that. Usually when I'm engaged in doing stuff for the show, I stick to the script. I stick to the business of it. But yeah, like I said, it affected me in a way that I wasn't entirely prepared for, because he's, you know, him, Candace, Tucker, all of these numbskulls. I don't sit around wishing for their deaths. Like I said, I wish poverty on them. If I'm going to wish anything, I wish poverty on them, you know. And I can't imagine that there are very many people, you know, in either side or the middle that necessarily wish death upon their perceived political enemies. At least there don't seem to be. Yeah, I mean, who knows what's in somebody's heart, right? But I had to take my time with that too. You know, I had to really take my time with it and see how I felt about the whole thing as I went through my work, and I don't usually have to do that. So, it absolutely did affect me, even as someone who was ultimately okay with it. I didn't experience any kind of grief from it, certainly. Not even grief for, what could happen, down the line to podcasters, like myself and others. So that said, I'm still kind of feeling it out, I guess, but it has made me take a step further back and seeing how they're trying to really vilify more the work of podcasters, independent media people, and so on. I had talked before about how I was strongly considering putting the Patreon back up. Right now, it's just kind of in a holding pattern, but putting the Patreon back up because the account is still there. I just haven't, I don't have it live or anything, so we're not taking any money, none of that shit. But yeah, I had to really, like I said, sit with, do I want to do that again in December? Now, just looking at the arc of things right now, I mean, we're all on the same ride. No one knows what it's going to be like in a few months, but I'm not entirely on board with bringing the Patreon back, with bringing back sources of funding that can be tracked. That's something I'm not too crazy about doing right now as I look at what's going on, how people are reacting, and frankly, how our work and life schedules are. I don't want to just produce one show a month or one show every 5 weeks and expect people to pay for that. That feels wrong. Even going from 4 shows a month, which we were doing, to 2, felt weird having patrons at that reduced workload, because there's nothing else that I can give you guys, aside from like patrons getting getting the linked downloads for things like the short films that we played the audio of and stuff on the episodes. There's not really much that I can do. I'm not trying to run a fucking media empire here. I really just kind of wanted the Patreon to, fund the show so I don't have to fund it out of pocket, but thank God it's not that expensive. So yeah, these are all things that I've been sitting with and mulling over and just trying to figure out, just like anybody else. Okay, I think that's it. We will do our best to produce an episode next week. Yeah, I've got the work done. We just, me and Matthew have to coordinate our time. That's all. All right, everybody. Have a great one, and hopefully the next time you hear from me, it is via episode 39. Goodbye.